But I am proud of what we've done. You know, I stand there sometimes on my own at the end of the night and I look around the gym and think, we've come such a long way because, you know, I've said the story a million times. We started off in a cellar in a nightclub which was 8 metres long, 4 metres wide. It was full of damp. How nobody died from some disease in there, I don't know. Because back in them days, I bet... What do we mop the maps once every 3 months? We've never no ringworm. Nobody ever had ringworm.
I can remember Martin McDonald's mum, Sherry, saying, "Do you clean these mats?" And he was like, "Yeah, every couple of weeks." She's like, "Every couple of weeks, I'll come down here and do it for free.
I'll come
clean for free. Just let me clean them once a week."
And the amount of sweat on them mats.
Get those from the trap for. Some man they wanna chat shit till I knock 'em ain't like I'm Jack Shaw. Roll hat, roll stack, my flow sharp like a hacksaw. Getting off.
Welcome back to the Tanked Up Podcast. This is episode 17, and today's guest is one you've all been calling for. He's a black belt in BJJ, an ex-MMA fighter himself. He's a driving force behind Welsh MMA, and it shows with his dangerous pool of fighters, known as the Dicky Death Squad.
Dirty Dick's Death Squad.
Dirty Dick's Death Squad, there you are.
Triple D.
First starting out with his own club many years ago, he promised the lads in the gym, if you stick with him, you'll get one of you in the UFC. And to date, he's had 3 fighters compete under the Shaw MMA banner. Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is Richard Shaky Shaw.
Cheers, Joe. That built my ego up. Thanks,
That's what we're trying to do, make you feel comfortable.
Not everybody's that nice to me.
How's things, mate? You all good?
All good, buddy. Yeah.
Good. Glad to have you here. Like we say, we've had tons of requests for you since we started.
I think every single video we've had a comment on me. Shaky and Parker. Yeah. I said we've got no chance of getting Parker on.
Get Parker on, he'll probably offend half the nation.
He doesn't fancy it, does he? He's not into the
we will. We'll do it. Let's get this show out of the way and we'll get him on with me. Because if he comes on with me, he'll come on with me.
Yeah, he probably...
You got to get Parker on, you got to get him brutally honest, don't know.
I don't know. It depends on if you want your site shut down or not.
Well, Andrew Tate's the most controversial man in the world. He gets the most views, so...
Yeah, that's a good point.
We get all the opinions on, innit? Get them all on. But, I don't know if you want to start with giving like a bit of background about how you got into MMA and all that.
Well, football I played for years. So as a youngster, I done judo as a kid. Done judo for a few years. I remember doing a competition, absolutely hating it. And I'd done judo for about 2 years. Done a couple of comps and fell out of love with it. Ended up playing football. And that's why I think I've got instilled in me now. I'm not a big fan of making kids compete. Because I remember that experience as an 8-year-old myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I played football. Started working in a pub. There was a couple of bouncers in the pub. A bloke called Reese Long, who's passed away now. He was a black belt judo. A boy called Steve Amon, who was a black belt in karate. They started doing some training sessions. I suppose you could say it was an early form of mixed martial arts because he was doing a bit of judo for half hour, a bit of striking. There was a lad that done a bit of boxing, one of the doormen, and then we just do a bit of sparring. So I've done that for years and years, 2-3 times a week. Fancied myself that I could look after myself. And after a few years of doing that, I was down at the old Appley Les Centre. Do you remember the old Appley Les Centre?
Yeah.
Used to have a training room in there.
That's right, I started training
with the Falcons. There was a matted area with some hanging bags. So I went in the bag one day on my own, and my buddy from school come in, Steve Jane. Now, if you know Steve was the most unassuming person, and you know, quiet, really polite, proper gentleman, and right through school, you know, he'd never fight or anything. And he says to me, "You still training with Steve?" And he said, "Oh yeah. What are you doing for the next hour? You fancy having a grapple?" I thought, "God, I'm gonna wipe the floor with him now." Soft sod. He got hold of me, and I have never experienced anything like it. Right? It was like, I don't know, could have been 2.5 minutes before he gave up. You know, he tapped me about 4 times in that time. He choked me out, rear naked choke. He was triangling me. I was like, my mind was fried. I was like, what is this bloke? Then, and this is an experience a lot of people have when they come to the club, that feeling of panic and not being able to breathe. And it's like, I thought I was fit and I can't breathe. I said, "Stop, Steve." He put the timer off for, I think it was 4 minutes. We were like halfway through it. "What is that?" He's like, "Oh, I trained at this jiu-jitsu club for the last year. You ought to come up and try it." It blew my mind. So anyway, I go the following week, turn up at this club. I walk in, Steve hadn't turned up, so I'm on my own. About 20 people in there, I'd say 7 adults, rest all kids. When I say kids, between like 13 and 16. Well, I'll be all right, yeah. Pay my fee. The instructor says, there's no technique today, we're just sparring. I look around and I thought, I'll be all right, yeah. And then I just got submitted one round after another round by 14 and 15-year-old kids. So I put my ego in check. I remember sitting in the car at the end of the session thinking, what have I done for the last couple of years? And that situation can make and break you as a man. And you can either walk away from that, go back to the doorman and carry on training in your comfort zone, or you can go back to the club where the kids have just handed you your ass for an hour and learn. I just become addicted. So I decided to go back, started training. He'll tell you as a kid, I was always training when I non-stop.
We was on about, just to jump in, we
Travelling.
was on about this yesterday, weren't we, funny enough, about until you do a bit of grappling or a bit of wrestling or a bit of fighting, you don't appreciate how hard it is. Like, I had a roll with one of the boys in the gym. He'd been coming about 2 months with open mat yesterday. And I'd say he was blowing when he after about 3 minutes. I was subbed him a couple of times. He's like, I can't believe you've subbed me how many times. And it's like, yeah, but I've been training 20 years.
Yeah.
And that's why you get the comments online, I think, because people look at it and think, like you say, you look, there's a bunch of kids, you thought, oh, I'll be all right there. And then next thing you know, you're fucking getting choked and armbarred. And
You imagine if I said to any, I say 30-year-old man who's a man in his prime fitting, and I say, I got a 16-year-old kid in the gym, and I'll bet £1,000 you don't last a minute with him, everyone's going to take that bet. And then I'll put Johan Thomas on him, who will just destroy any average man within 60 seconds and finish him. And that's no ifs, there's no buts, is it? And it is. It's mind-blowing because if I had £1 for every rugby, I say, I just pick you up and throw you off. I say, come and have a train. And we see, we've had every hard man, over the last 20 years, I've had every hard man in the valley come and train with me, and they've had their ego checked.
well, can you remember when we used to do sessions with Appley Rugby and Big Chris?
Yeah.
So Big Chris actually trains, he don't play rugby, no, he actually trains us now. What's Chris? 20 stone, 6 foot.
I'd say he's heavy. And
Everyone call him Long Dog. He's about 6'10".
yeah, he's about
20 plus stone. Was a
6'8",
really good rugby player.
and not bad weight, mind. He's a big,
solid,
solid.
And he trains with us now. He's been training for about 2 years. Doesn't play rugby no more, but he come up with Appley Rugby, and he said, "Chris, what we were doing is we had to keep him. One partner would try and keep the other one pinned for 2 minutes. Then he'd swap. So he said, go on, Chris, jump with Tank. And I just had a fight. So I was about 71 kilo or something like that.
Yeah, max.
And I just had him in sight control. And he was going fucking bonkers, wasn't he? And he just could not move me. And at the end, you could see he was like,
Who was it?
This does make
Dan
sense.
Crandall.
Dan Crandall, the copper.
The copper, yeah.
I put Dan's about 17 stone, got to be.
Yeah,
honest.
he's a big
and,
lump.
he comes at me and says, "God, shake." He said, "I'm slinging him in the back of the van every weekend for fun outside these nightclubs." He said, "How have he kept me on the floor for 2 minutes?" And then we swapped it, mine, and said to the big lumps, try and keep like Jack on the floor, and I want to keep on the floor,
No.
could they? And it was blowing their mind. So it is. It's an ego check. Like this is why I don't know. We've been going since 2012, 2008, 2007. So we're. You do the maths, so that's 15 years, isn't it? 15 years is Show MMA's been going for 15 years. We were to Lady Combat, now Show MMA. And in that time, I'm probably not exaggerating, it's probably 2,000 to 3,000 have come and gone.
Yeah.
Because they'll do 1 or 2, or how many people do we know have done a year, 2 years, and then disappear? The list is endless. It's probably at a max 5% stay, and at a max 0.5% will ever achieve a black belt out of that 3,000. If that. Well, Christ, I think we've been going 15 years, and we've got 7 black belts. Yeah.
Out of thousands of people.
Out of thousands. And one of them is Brett. Who didn't have who had his black belt elsewhere for coming to us. So we've got 6 black belts that we've had from white to black.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit more if you include Sam and Lee.
If you include Sam, Carl, and Lee, they were blue belt when they joined us.
Yeah, but still.
But they'd had 15 years of grappling experience at blue belt.
Yeah.
They done judo black belts.
So you think Alex is 7, or to call it rounded up to 10 over fucking 15 years? That's less than 1 a year. So if you had 2,000-3,000 come, what's the percentage on that? It's fucking mental.
I always remember Daryl James was one of our black belts, and I remember him like when I had my black belt. I remember him speaking to the class, and it stuck with me. And he goes, "It's less time to become a qualified surgeon than it is a BJJ black belt." And that's mind-blowing when I think about it. Mind the work that goes into it, So
yeah, definitely, that's crazy.
Going back to the story with the kids, like I just started going, and for a year I was flat out. I did my first competition after 6 weeks. I was shitting myself. It was a guy. it was traditional jiu-jitsu then, so it was in a gi with MMA gloves and shin guards, and you could punch and kick semi-contact, takedowns and grapple full on. And if you were at the floor, you had a minute on the floor, then it was back up. And for me, I say to the day, mate, I think it's the most exhausting form because you'd work your ass off to get on the floor, then a minute later you'd be back up, and it was up down. For your lungs, it was a tough old.
You couldn't get your position and just capitalise.
Yeah, so remember Paul Davis, the beast, right? There's a guy called Paul Davis. He took me under his wing, him and Simon Warner. When I was at the farm. So we got up to this competition. Imagine now we've got 6 weeks of training, and that's it. And all I was doing in class, I was just aggressive, rugby tackling people, and I'm naturally strong, and I can hold them down. So I go to this comp, and there's a guy in the corner now, and he's got his gi on, he's got like his black polo neck on underneath, and he's doing a kata. And I was looking at him, I thinking, he must be some sort of ninja, like they've set me up here, it's supposed to be a novice competition. And I said to Paul, I can't do this. He's, oh, you'll be all right. You know, he's like, you'll be all right, Pat, you'll be all right. And I just went out, just rugby tackled him, pinned him, and I won that competition. And then it was addictive. You know, like I say to everybody, I got an addictive personality, and if I'd taken another route, probably been a drug addict, because if I'm into something, I'm into something. But that adrenaline, for a semi-contact jiu-jitsu competition, I felt I was the hardest man in the world at the end of that. And the adrenaline, for days, it was like, oh, I want more of this. And you know, he'll tell you, I was just on the road, right, constantly. I would, on my own, I would travel, I'd go and do a competition, I'd go to every seminar, I'd visit clubs. And that buzz, you know, it become addictive. And even now at 50, I miss it, you know, and I'm hoping once I've had so many years out with injuries now with my knees because they have been knackered. I'm hoping this operation, I finally put it right. And I'd like to think, you know, April, May next year, I could do a comp, you know, at the seniors.
There was a boxer the other day. It was either on a podcast or I see an interview, and they were saying about the addictiveness of the win or a loss. They like, where is a win or
I've had a buzz off a loss.
Whether it's a win or a loss,
right?
you have this feeling. Obviously, the win, you have this feeling, then you have like, I'm the man, and it's fucking brilliant. And then, but no matter how many times you do it, it's always short lived. 3, 4, 5 days later, that feeling, it's gone.
Yeah.
So straight away, then you start to want the feeling again. Same with a loss. The feeling of a win goes like, just like everyone says, oh look, it's last week's news in a week's time. It's the same with a win. It's fucking great for a week, but then after a week, everyone kind of forgets about it. You're like, right, when's the next one? And you're constantly chasing up. It's like a drug in a way.
You suit of like that
Constantly
dopamine,
chasing
innit?
it.
It was the same with the belts, you know. As a kid, I always, like, when I was a kid growing up in the 80s, you had the Bruce Lee films in the 70s, you had the Karate Kids in the 80s, and you used to look at these television characters and think that they were superhuman, you know. So a dream for me always as a kid, oh, I'd love to be a black belt. And I started late, you know what I mean? I was 29 when I started doing the jiu-jitsu properly. Because we never done no gradings in the training with the boys in the door, just years of beating each other up. And I remember having, I still say today, my most gratifying black belt was my traditional jiu-jitsu black belt. Because I'd had to compete, I'd had to travel up to Bronze Grove regular, I was training all the time. The grading for black belt was horrific, worst thing I've ever been through. It was like 3 hours of hell. But then, as Jack said then, it's short-lived. It's like, right, I started thinking, oh, I don't mind having a crack at the BJJ then, and started doing some BJJ comps. But I also think it's a bit of an anticlimax, because I remember having my black belt and being so over the moon and like excited, and then like 2 weeks of training, like I thought, I'm giving me no extra superpower. I'm still the same bloke that was brown belt 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know, and I think sometimes people think that when they get that next belt, and I think this is why there's a lot of dropouts at blue. I think they think that once they put that blue belt on, they're going to go up a level. Well, you don't. It's just a sign of progress. And I think this is why maybe then some of the blue belts are getting tapped with the white belts who are on their way to blue belt. And I don't know, I sit down sometimes try and work out the philosophy as to why so many people drop out. And I think that's a big thing, is that they think that when they get this new belt, it's going to move them up to another level. That just comes with time on a match, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was more buzzed to have my blue and purple belt probably than my brown and black belt. Like, you get to a certain stage and you just...
And he was younger.
Yeah.
It's a bigger deal when he was younger, you know?
Yeah, as you get older and more, you kind of think, like, it's great to have a black belt, of course it is, but it's not it doesn't necessarily always mean it's the be-all and end.
People get hung up on the belts, you know. I say to everybody, just enjoy it. Like, I had my blue belt in 2003 or 2004. I went to a Royce Gracie seminar, and he made us all fight and spar at the end. And I got down to the last 4 out of it. It was a seminar, about 30-odd people. And he said, right, stop. And one of them was a purple belt instructor, and it was a blue belt of his, and then there was 2 of us that were white belts. 2003, would I have been a black belt in traditional jiu-jitsu then? I don't think I was. No, I had my black belt in 2006, I think, my black belt. And he gave me a blue belt, you know. And I was a big buzz. You know, Royce Gracie was a legend back then.
That's a fucking different type of blue belt,
yeah,
isn't it?
You know,
Royce Gracie.
Yeah. But
Royce Gracie, 8 years after he won UFC, I'd be buzzing as well.
But what's happened with Royce then, he's tarnished the belt a little bit, as much as it became a bit of a thing that he was handing out seminars, and that's something I would never do. You'd have to train with me on a regular basis. But I remember having that blue belt, and, you know, it becomes addictive, and you're looking for that next belt, and you're looking for that next belt. But people, if they chase in the belt, and this is why this is why people drop out a lot. They chase in the belt rather than just enjoying the training and not worrying about the belts. You look at Parker, you know, Parker's one of the most experienced martial artists in the country. and never chased the belts. And if he'd been at another club before he joined us, he'd have had a black belt probably when he joined us, you know what I mean? But never once did he say to me, oh, when am I going to have a brown belt? When am I going to have a black belt? He just enjoyed the process, enjoyed the training. And I think people get hung up a little bit. So say if I got I use John Matthias. John Matthias is 54 years of age, right? Trains every morning session, does a couple of evening sessions, competes even at 54. He's carrying injuries. Probably I got some fit white belts that are MMA fighters could probably submit him. But John's a purple belt because I got to take into account his age, the amount of times he's training, his attitude, his competition record at senior level. And then I think there's a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm a blue belt and I'm tapping purple belt, so why am I a purple belt? Well, it's not just about being able to submit people. You know,
everyone's journey's different as well, isn't it? You know, I can remember being like...
Oh, sorry, cut across. That's why I was going back to me. I had my blue belt off Royce in 2003 or 2004, I'd have to watch it. And then my black belt in 2015. Yeah. So between blue to black was 11 years. 11 years. And when I say to people, don't talk to me about waiting between belts, no one in the country worked... I believe this, I'm not blowing my trumpet. I was running a successful club. I had Marshman Bama champion. I had Cage Warriors champions. I had British Jiu-Jitsu champions at, you know, most belt. Plus competing myself, I won the British Open at blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt. And I didn't get my black belt till 2015. Hence why I get a bit of stick about it. You know, if you're going to get a black belt off me, you're going to be in for a long haul, do you know what I mean? But then, when you do, same as purple and above, like, you know, blue belt's a little bit different. You will have club blue. But purple and above, I expect you to go to any club in the country and be able to hold your own with purple belts at that club at that level, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not watered down. And if it's not for them, it's not for them. They need to find another club, you know? And that's been my attitude. And it's working, isn't it? Because we've got good numbers, we're successful, our competition record second to none.
Oh, when I go up there, I can't believe how many people are walking through the door. Like, it's crazy, isn't it?
It's and the jiu-jitsu at the gym is probably more busier now than any class. It used to be like an MMA gym, whereas now, jiu-jitsu is probably fucking, you would have 60 boys in the match.
I tell you now, I worked out the figures the other day, and the MMA team makes up for, I think it's about 12% of the team now. The rest is jiu-jitsu.
And how many of them started off just coming doing a bit of grappling?
A bit of grappling. There's loads. Kane, Jack Beasley.
Yeah.
Young Kian.
Yeah.
You know, I can go on and on. So
does it give you a buzz, like, knowing that you've built it up from, like,
it
the
does.
ground up?
I'm proud, you know, not so much a buzz, but I am proud of what we've done. You know, I stand there sometimes on my own at the end of the night and I look around the gym and think, we've come such a long way because, you know, I've said the story a million times. We started off in a cellar in a nightclub which was 8 metres long, 4 metres wide. It was full of damp. How nobody died from some disease in there, I don't know. Because back in them days, I bet... What do we mop the maps once every 3 months? We've never no ringworm. Nobody ever had ringworm.
I can remember Martin McDonald's mum, Sherry, saying, do you clean these mats? And he was like, yeah, every couple of weeks. She's like, every couple of weeks. I'll come down here and do it for free.
I'll come
clean for free. Just let me clean them once a week.
And the amount of sweat on them mats.
So, how this worked now, you had the arena nightclub in App Lady up on the top floor. So on the side on the hill where the brewery delivery would come in through the cellar doors, we had a key for that. So you walk straight up this passage, there was a cellar, wasn't there, for the nightclub. On the right was a room next to the cellar, which was 8 metres by 4. Then on the left was a door, which we used to unlock, and it was the toilets for the nightclub. So they'd have their Friday, Saturday, or Sunday there. The cleaners wouldn't come in till the following Friday, right? So you can imagine, say, these toilets.
Oh, grim.
There was no lights on because the nightclub would turn everything off. So one of the boys will, remember, give us one of them electricians. Around. So, like, you need to go to the toilet, you put it on, you put your shoes on, you'd be stepping over glass, sick, and everything. You'd go in the toilet, so you need to go to the toilet. Like, some of the toilets had jagged edges where, like, they broke and they just never fixed. It was bananas.
Fucking nuts.
And I can't ever remember anyone ever having fungal infection or ringworm. Ever.
No one, probably did, just no one knew where it fucking was.
I never even mentioned it.
It's only, like, twice the size of this room, and this is tiny, isn't it?
We'd have, like, 15 people in there, be packed. It would get hot, and, like, it's 8 metres, which isn't a long distance, but you couldn't see from one end of the room to the other.
Smoke.
Because of the steam and the sweat steam, you know. But it served its purpose. It got to a point then, we moved to Aberby. Where we are now, there's a tiny unit on the end. We moved there, we were there for about a year.
Yeah.
And then Big Jack, who was, you know, one of my best buddies, bought a building up in Blaina and done a lot of work on that. And we were there for years and years. And
10 years, I think we were there, weren't we? No, sorry, 8 years.
And we'd still be there now, I think. I think, like, when Jack got in the UFC, there was a realisation, it's like, do you know what, it's a miracle we've got these fighters to this level without a cage, without, like, a state-of-the-art gym. And it was a case of, right, if we want to sustain this and move on to the next level, we got to invest now, and that's where we are now, down in Aberby with a state-of-the-art arena, state-of-the-art gym. But it's been a good process, and I wouldn't have changed it. You know, we've had some really tough times. We've had some brilliant memories, haven't we? You know, I will write a book one day, because some of the story... I'm going to do 2 books. I'm going to do one on just my life and like my jobs, and I'm going to do one on stories of the gym, I think, because the stories on the gym, I think, will be a bestseller, you know.
Oh, yeah. I bet you get some characters roll through there, don't you?
Oh, honestly. Just like on the road to fights, stories in the gym, you know, I can go on and on.
Remember when we was going up, you probably never told it on camera, remember we was going to the Hereford to Martin and Mark were doing the headshot into the club?
With the soldiers?
Yeah, and the road was telling me that's a fucking belt.
So, how old was you then?
2008, 9, probably 13, 12, 13.
So it's me, him, Jack Marshman's brother Mark, and Martin McDonald, and we're off to Hereford to this combat sports open trials. It was a no headshot event. It used to be like 3 events during the year. You'd score points for wins, draws, and losses, and then the
bit like like the PFL now.
Yeah, like
a little bit
PFL,
like that.
yeah,
but no headshot amateur.
No headshot amateur, and a little bit lax on the rules. So we're driving up the Hereford Road. There's been an accident, so there's a diversion. So we go off. No sat nav in them days, were there? No like real mobile phones. So we're driving, like, and I asked directions. This guy says, let's go up this road here. So we follow this road, and it's like driving into this forest, isn't it? It's like, honest God, now, it's like a scene off a film, isn't it? All of a sudden now, this bloke, can you remember the guy ran across the front?
Yeah.
This bloke comes running down the mountain.
With a gun in his hand.
Gun in his hand, looks at us, runs across the road, we're like, what the fuck is that?
Away.
Right? So then, like, I thought, fucking hell, let's just keep driving. We keep driving. Which, like, that bloke just had a gun in it. We come round the corner. It's like a fully fledged army unit there. Tanks, guns.
Fucking like big pickup trucks with fucking turrets on
with
top.
machine guns on the back.
Fuck?
What? And they've all turned on us like, stop.
Whoa.
Whoa. What are you doing? We're taking a diversion. We're off to a competition. And like, we're babbling a bit. And the guy's here like with a gun on him going,
Panic talking. Like.
What's the word they use? This is a restricted area. Some bloke had pointed us in this direction, mate. I just seen a guy with a gun as well running. Yeah, it's one of our guys. We're on an exercise. So they made us turn around and you go back. He's like, you're not being shot. You shouldn't be up here. Do you know what I mean? Oh.
There's SAS in there.
SAS, it was SAS.
Well, on hindsight, but then we find out it was definitely an SAS exercise. No buts about it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, but that was one of them on the way up. Yeah, listen.
I bet that bloke was having a laugh after he pointed you.
Let me tell you, it shocks you when in the middle of nowhere and somebody with a gun runs, stops and looks in the middle of the road. Particularly when you've got your 13-year-old kid with you.
Oh, fucking hell.
We've had some fun up here, mate, don't we? Martin McDonagh fought this kid. And
Martin have had a few fucking stories up there.
So they go out like this. Martin walks towards him. Oh, the kid was drinking Coke when he remember. This kid now is swigging a 2 litre of Coke.
He stood now. This kid is stood waiting for his fight with Martin. He's got like his shins, his shorts, his rash guard on. He's got like, you know, the Undertaker's leather jacket. You know, like the floor leather. He's got one of them on. He's got a 2 litre Pepsi Max. He's just swigging, and a box of Ritz crackers
for calves. So anyway, they come out, touch gloves. Martin walks him down. He walks off the mat. Referee goes, don't walk off the mat. Quiet warning. Walks off the mat. He goes, official warning. Do not walk off that mat. Engage in the fight. Martin walks him down again. Final warning. There's not a punch being thrown now. 4th time, Martin walks on, bang. Referee goes, you're DQ, disqualification. The kid walks up, man, with great fight, shakes hands. Martin is dry as hell. He looks at me, he goes, I'm in the final.
Martin had a few, so yeah, he
remember he knocked that boy out?
Knocked some boy out in a headshot fight with a slam. Then he fought the Silver Fox, the guy's about fucking 60 odd, beat him. Lost to him previously in a grappling
tournament. In a grappling, fuming about that, wasn't he?
Yeah, we've had some fucking times over the years.
We've had some characters as well, do you know what I mean?
From the Hereford no headshot, the UFC.
And this is a good thing. I think we appreciate the good times, you know. There's probably a lot of guys today, like our guys in show MMA, they got it on a plate, right? Yeah. So you walk through the door, you've got a 24-foot MMA cage, you've got showers, you've got changing facilities, you've got a sauna, you've got a massive matted area, you've got wrestling walls, you've got a state-of-the-art fitness suite upstairs, you've got MMA coaches, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts, you've got Muay Thai coaches, high-level boxing coaches. You walk on that mat and everybody's showing. You've got, as he said, 7 black belts, 12 brown belts, 30 purple belts. You've got 3 lads that have been in the UFC. You've got Brett in Bellator now. You've got Cage Warriors champions. You've got a load of, professional fight. And they take it for granted,
Yeah.
When we started, I was a black belt in traditional jiu-jitsu, a blue belt in BJJ, with a couple of semi-pro fights behind me, which is headshots standing, no headshots on the ground, and a dozen of us learning on our feet, So we appreciate the good times because we've been in that cellar in the middle of December when it's -8 degrees and you can't see from one end of the room to the other to what we got now. Like, it's been a brilliant journey and I wouldn't change anything because it's moulded us as fighters and it's moulded us as men. But the lads today sometimes take it a little bit for granted, so I lose my temper a little bit and I'm ranting.
That's why they're so soft.
Yeah,
they don't have to train at -8.
And this is why I'm shouting and ranting a lot down here, because they take it for granted. Whereas, Jack is probably the last breed that has come through the process right from the very, very beginning,
You can't, like, replicate that, though, can you?
You can't. It hardens people as well, I loved it. I did. I mean, you couldn't buy a pair of MMA gloves in the UK. You'd have to, everything was ordered abroad. I remember, like, having my Sprawl shorts and my Sprawl rash guard, my gloves come from America. I remember putting them on and thinking, I can beat anybody up in the world. I was thinking I could get in that UFC. And, when I was doing it, it was mental, mate. Like, give you an example. I went down, this is how the times have changed, it's safe now, you got your safe MMA. But I drove down to Exeter to compete, and the guy weighed in 3.5K overweight. What's that in pounds?
7, 8 pounds, 10 pounds.
Like today, if I went to an event and my fight was against somebody, it'd be, no, the fight still goes ahead. We're at the rules meeting. Now, when I took this fight down there, it was like, they were trying to mimic Pride a little bit. So it was like, there's no elbows. Okay, so no elbows, full contact MMA, but we don't want no elbows. We're at the rules meeting and somebody goes, can we chuck some elbows? Now, we've trained specifically for a no elbow fight. Yeah. The referee's going, I don't mind, we'll chuck some elbows in. And then, so we go, what about stomps? Can we stomp? This is a Pride, remember? Stomp on the head?
Yeah.
The guy goes, yeah, I'm happy with that. And then one of the coaches goes, no, I don't want my fight against stomped in the head. Well, stomp to the body. Right, so this is now like at a couple of hours' notice. So now we've gone from like a professional MMA fight with no elbows to you throw
Pride
elbows,
rules.
right? And also you can stomp, but not to the head. It was like, but you imagine that today?
No, it wouldn't happen, would it?
It wouldn't happen, So it was rough and ready back in the day, and I suppose to some extent there was no politics or bullshit with it. People would fight. Never had no trouble getting a fight. Today, now...
No, it was never it wasn't like now, it was never no record padding I'm not fighting him because he's a blue belt, or I'm not fighting him because he's had a bit of... But it was back then, he would just rock up and fight.
And it does become embarrassing. I mean, like, I obviously, I am on both sides of the spectrum. I run a club, but I also run events. So, like, I know the gyms that you're dealing with, which are legitimate, proper MMA teams, I can reel them off. I use it purely. They don't get enough credit. It's Lions Den and Dave Matthews. Yeah. They boys turn up, they're on weight, there's never any issues with them. They're fit, they're ready, they're prepared. Never no nonsense when matchmaking, it's pretty easy to deal with, But my best when I've gone to a coach and I've gone, right, I got Jack here, he's 0-1 for your debut fight. Oh, no, we were looking for somebody with the same experience. He's had one fight, one loss, mate. Yeah, we were looking for somebody with the same experience. I don't know what you want from me. Do you know what I mean?
There's not that much.
I've had a debut guy. We have offered him a debut MMA fighter, and he's a white belt. And they've gone, oh no, he's had a bit too much experience in other areas, and it's crazy.
It's so fucking social media is what it is, because you've got all these boys who are not fighters, want to be fighters, or want to tell everyone they're fighters. So they naturally want to jump and have a fight, but then they're afraid to lose because then they can't post their pictures then that they've lost. Whereas when I started doing it, it was like, well, no, we used to do it because I used to do it, and some of the older school boys like Marshman, Chris, Martin, we'd just do it because we like competing. So you would still be just as gutted if you lost, but it didn't really fucking matter.
But also you can do your own work. It's not like today where you go Facebook, YouTube.
Yes.
Like back in our day, they would like ring me and go, right, we got this guy, this is his record, happy to fight. You won't be able to find nothing off him unless you like bought a video off some website where he might have fought on a show, do you know what I mean? So it was quite raw, but going back to like an amateur, it don't matter if you lose.
No.
Like, I've put my guys way less experience against, because I think, right, this is a good test. I think you could beat him. As a coach, I'm fighting for thing. Nobody looks at a professional fighter in Cage Warriors UFC and go, what was his amateur record? Jack Skes mentioned a bit because he was IMAF champion and all the rest of it. But like, if you pick up 6 or 7 losses on your amateur record, but you're 10-0 as a pro, they don't go, oh yeah, 10-0. But he lost 6 at amateur. Nobody cares. I always use the terminology. It's an apprenticeship, right? So if you're going to become a plumber, you do a 3-year apprenticeship before you have the tools to go off on your own. And that's what amateur fighting is an apprenticeship. It's pitting them against, like, so if I got a good grappler, I've put him against good grapplers, but also against good strikers, just to see how he manages that. Today, so many coaches is like, oh, no, you know, too experienced. Get your amateurs out there, get them fighting, win, lose or draw, build their experience, get them used to fighting under pressure, and then, you know, what do they say? That's what diamonds are made, isn't it?
Pressure, yeah.
From pressure, you know.
Smooth seas never made a good sailor.
Yeah, spot on, that. Spot on.
Happy days.
Yeah, we're back. My bad.
We're back. Weak bladder of being sorted, drinking too much water.
He's had about 4 since he's been here,
I
man, I
know.
think.
I'm relentless.
He's going to drown one day from drinking too much. I might drown from drinking too much coffee, but he drowned from too much water.
I've had to stop the coffee. I get like, do you know, if you have a day off now, do you ever get like bad headaches?
They all take a mick, but I have like a cup when I get up. I go to work, I have a cup. If I'm working, it's I don't drink so much. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you know, on a Saturday or Sunday, I can do 8 cups.
Fucking hell,
Right,
like,
but
wonder why his blood pressure's up.
But if I'm like in work, maybe three, I'll have 2 in work, and then 1 when I come to the gym. That's too bad, like. It's my, hey, listen, I don't drink a massive amount. It's my guilty pleasure.
Oh,
What?
you don't drink much.
I don't listen. I have a couple of 7 Compass down there on a Saturday.
He's on the 7 count. He's done about 7 bottles this year. Yeah, he's flat out on the 7. He's the house building his house has stressed him out. He's flat out on the 7.
I've had a lot of stress between injuries in the house, but let me tell you about that 7 count. I got a theory behind it as well. My grand now, when he was alive, always used to say to me, "Drop a whiskey, do you good boy, stops you getting ill." Last time I was ill was October last year when I had COVID, when Big Jack passed away. I've not had a cold since. I've done 7 bottles of whiskey in that time, right?
It's the whiskey.
It's the whiskey. It's keeping me alive and keeping me well.
You need a brand deal, I think.
Southern Comfort. If Southern Comfort or any reps from there, they want to send some bottle, happy to do a bit of advertising. Got a good platform with the Facebook and Instagram. Jack will do a couple of shares as well.
That's pretty smooth, though, isn't it? Like some whiskies I can't stand, but that's...
Let's talk about sponsorship. Let's talk about sponsorship. So when we were at Up and Coming, like
There's a rant coming.
Yeah.
there's a rant coming. Yeah, like I'll give you an example. Right, I felt I was doing a good job for the community as well. I've taken a lot of these boys, your Marshmans, Mark McDonald, your Kyle Process, all boys that have been in trouble with the police, constantly in trouble. Some of them in jail. And I started to work with Big Chris Gay and Dan Davis, who worked for the Youth Offending Service. So they were sending referrals, and we were doing a lot of work around these boys. And like, you know, Jack will tell you, I was zero tolerance. So I was like, listen, you're going to come and train with me, and they loved it, mind, didn't they? Do you know what I mean? I will stop you training if you cause problems, and it worked. You know, they level off. They become good, well-rounded human beings at the end of the day, and I take a lot of pride from that as well. I don't want a black belt, the best fighter in the world, if he's an arsehole. I want somebody who's a good human being. You know, I think that's as important the end product as the ability of the fighter. But like when we were going through these processes, I was like looking for funding, looking for grants. Council never give me nothing, wouldn't support me. Started doing MMA events. The local council, oh no, it's not a regulated sport. Blaenau and Gwent were the only borough in the whole of Wales that would not allow an MMA event. And we were the most successful team at the time, weren't we, in the country, right? In Wales, right? Yeah. So I could go to Merthyr, I could go to Caerphilly, I could go to Newport, all 20-minute drives, and take 10, 15 fighters sometimes from Adelaide to fight, but we couldn't do it on our own doorstep, right? So, by the by, somebody rang me one day and said, "Oh, I'll give you, we'll help you get a grant." I go, "Oh, thank you very much. Like, we haven't had a lot." And this councillor says, "Yeah, leave it with me." They sent me 25 quid. You can't buy a pad for 25 quid, let alone a set of pads, right? 25 quid. That would agitate me. I see the money they've thrown at there was and I'm not knocking these things, right? Because best of luck, I'm thinking of money. But there was a thing out in Blaenau where they were mending bikes. There was 2 members of staff, and there was like 5 or 6 people involved in it. They threw like 5 grand at them. And it's blowing my mind. I'm like, hang on now. I got 30 hardcore nutcases here training with me that I'm keeping in line. He'll tell you, the pubs would ring me. If it was an issue in a pub, the landlord would ring me and I would go and deal with it. And we'd hike them out one day. Alison Evans and Mark in the rugby club would ring. These boys are playing up. I'd make one phone call. It'd be cut dead. It'd be put. The bouncers would ring me. Shake some of your lads in here, a bit rowdy. Can you have a word? I turned up once in my pajamas to the arena and spoke to them on the front door. Killed it dead. But we've never getting any support. Nothing at all. I went to the MP. I'm going to name him Nick Smith. biggest waste of time this borough have ever had.
Yeah, fucking
Right?
name him.
I wrote him a letter.
We'll tag him in as well.
Tag him in. I wrote him a letter and I said, Blind and Gwent have stopped me doing MMA events. If you speak to the centre, it was the highest grossing event they've ever done in our building. You're telling me that the borough is struggling financially. You can afford over, like, I worked it out that if we done 3 shows here, they would clear around £20,000 to £25,000. You can afford to turn down 25 grand a year for this centre based on we are not a regulated sport. I can't remember, I looked and it was like trampolining or something, was not a regulated sport. I said, you're allowing this in, yeah? This is not regulated, right? It's not under the umbrella of like the Welsh sporting. So, well, I spoke to my local councillor, Nigel, who was brilliant. I said, can you arrange a meeting for me? What was the guy's name in charge at the time? See, I getting old. But I wanted Lynn Phillips. I wanted a meeting with him. Point blank wouldn't have a meeting with me.
Bottled it. The bottle jobs, that's what they are.
So I even said, right, let me do one more event. I'll give you a ringside table. Come and watch how the event is run. Security, blah, blah, blah. And if you're not happy then, I'll take it on the chin. But just come and see how professional we do it. So I write to Nick Smith. And Nick Smith sends me this, it was like an automated response that he'd obviously spoken to them, say, it's not regular. Yeah, I appreciate that, but could you arrange a meeting? So right back again, could you arrange a meeting for us to all sit down and have a proper discussion about it? If at the end of the discussion you knock me back, I'll take that on the chin, but I would like an audience so I can speak. Sends me another automated letter back. So then I ring his office. Oh, he's not. So he wouldn't have anything, you know. In the end, I lose my time and say, right, you were lost. We go to Newport Centre and we build a massive brand in Newport Centre. Selling 1,500 tickets every show. And I'm thinking, these people are so short-sighted financially. We've got idiots running the borough. We started having a bit of success. I can't remember, was it when we moved to Aberbeek, just after Jack on USC.
Funny that, isn't it?
Nick Smith then.
Funny, no, it is.
That's when things start happening then.
His secretary
like,
reaches out to me and says, oh, Nick would like to come to the gym and meet the fighters.
I bet he fucking would, yeah.
So I rang him. I said, could you ask Nick to ring? I said, listen now, do you remember me from a few years ago? Well, that was the council. I was nothing to do with it. I said, everything to do with you. I said, you're our MP and I was asking you to have a meeting. So no, I don't want him coming down the gym. And as much as a media-wise, that would have been good for me, I knocked him back. You know, and I never had anything to do with him since. But the problem we got, mate, put a red rosette on a donkey, they will win a council election.
Yeah.
Until we embrace it. And listen, I'm neither Tory, Liberal Democrat, Labour. For me, I'll vote for whoever I think will do the best job for our area. I couldn't care less about London, couldn't care less about Cardiff. I'll vote for the person who'll do the best. And this guy is doing nothing for us. Nothing.
Is that who's in now then? Still currently?
Mate, listen,
He's fucking useless.
He'll be in for the next 20 years.
Just because he's Labour?
Because he's
whatever,
Labour.
Yeah.
It won't make any difference. Won't make any difference. It won't even come close. We lived before. We used to have an ex-teacher live opposite me, right? Educated man. He puts his placard up, Labour. So I look over, like, and he said, voting Labour, but you? I voted Labour all my life, he said. Who you voting for? And I couldn't help myself. Like, I tried to antagonise him. Like, I voted for you. I voted for UKIP. Well, a bunch of racists and all that. I said, I wasn't voting for UKIP at the time. I was voting actually for, what's the guy's name? And he tacked me up. Nick Clegg, the Liberal Democrat, said he did a deal with the Tories, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I walked across. This is an educated bloke now. So I said to him, let's debate then. What policies are you keen for that you... I don't know nothing about the policies. I've just always voted Labour. I said, and this is the issue.
It's not a football team. Like,
I said, how do you know they're
Not
not...
exactly that, like.
I said, how do you know next year they haven't put in the manifesto that they're going to double your council tax? Well, they want... I said, how do you know you haven't read it? And this is the problem. And I get infuriated with it. I've even had councillors, and I've had MPs come to the gym, and I'm at this sort of time. They're all moaning and groaning. Not necessarily him, because I've been in his ear since he was a kid. But use your right to vote, even if it's just like a protest vote to instill change. You know, they're all as bad as each other. But until you keep changing the clock all the time, there's Nick Smith and all the councillors in the MP that are Labour. I just find it unreal.
That's
and that won't change for 30 years because you've still got the old miners and the older people tend to vote. I bet in our gym, for everyone under 25, less than 10% voted last time.
Yeah. No,
was
I
it
know.
14%? Was it 14 or 70% turnout for the last election?
Yeah.
That's pathetic.
But you know what? Am I right in saying this? So you know, if you don't vote, doesn't it just automatically go to the people who are already in charge?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just...
So say it's 1,000... Let's cut it down. It's 100 people. So 100 of you can vote for these 4 people. If only 17 of you vote, And out of that 17, 10 vote Labour, 7 vote Conservative.
Labour
are getting in based on 10 votes out of 100.
I haven't got yet.
They maybe haven't actually got the mandate of the masses.
I don't know a lot about politics. I don't really have the head for it. But that Nick Smith is fucking useless.
Absolutely useless.
Up there, he's like...
Have you seen he just put... Now, I slaughtered him on Facebook. he just put a post up. Cost of living education day. 2 o'clock at Hebervale. I put, fantastic. Just what the working class man needs. Everybody's in work for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's not going to get the right people, are you?
The working class man is the person that needs support more than anyone. Because the people that don't work get their benefits. They haven't got to worry about paying the mortgage. Your working class man now, right, that's on minimum wage and has got 2 kids and a wife to support and a mortgage to pay, or rent even. The electric is now doubling. The gas is now doubling. The interest on their mortgage is now going up. You know? But this guy can't go to this advice fair because he's in work.
Yeah.
But let's do it at 2 o'clock. Oh, let's move on to something else because I can talk about this and get
and it just sums them up. They're all fucking crooks because, like you said, Nick Smith didn't want to put a show on, didn't want to...
Not necessarily he didn't, the councilman,
but
he didn't support us.
I'm holding him accountable. Didn't support no one, and then the minute you get a bit of publicity to the town...
Yeah, wants to come and visit.
UFC, let's come visit, because you know why? Because then you'd then be associated with Jack. He's then associated with Jack's or UFC in the hope that a couple of people who follow you, I'll vote for him.
And I don't want to tell him all because there are some local councils which have been brilliant. Nigel Daniels always supported us as a club. Martin Cook always supported me as a club. At the moment now we got Lee Parsons from Brynithal, fantastic councillor, really got the benefits of the community at
It's just Nick Smith.
Unfortunately, there's some people employed by the council that
haven't got a backbone.
And they were, dictators. You know, not looking to take advice off anybody or have a conversation. They were dictators.
Well, you imagine you put me in Apley Live Centre even as an amateur to fight, it has sold itself out. Yeah. But no, we can't do that.
We're back in Hebervale now because what do you call it? They've been taking over a consortium have taken over the leisure centres. And there was a guy over there called Ashley, he's just moved on now, but he was the general manager, and I know the 2 managers, John Daniels and Simon. So Ashley reached out to me and said, listen, this consortium have taken over, it's no longer under the umbrella, we'd love to have you here. And it had been brilliant, mate. You know, we've had 3 years maybe of doing Hebervale.
No, fucking hell.
Oh, no, we've had
7 years.
Lockdown, yeah. If take
2015 was 5 years then.
And it have been sold out every time. They can't do enough for us. They're making more money off my events than anything for the rest of the year. Yeah, Blaine Gwent decided to scrap after 5 years. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing.
And they wonder why we're in the state. Yeah, change the topic, Johnny, before we lose all the viewers to fucking...
Move on before I start turning over tables and smashing your studio up.
We don't want that. Should we have a look? We got some questions come in. 2 seconds.
I want to talk about... I probably know the answer anyway, but... so you started 29. So say you was born... Same year as me, 1995.
Yeah.
And you started at, let's say, 16 rather than 29. Do you think modern day you would have tried to do it as a career rather than go down the coaching route?
Yeah, 100% I would have. And I honestly think I probably could have made a career if I had, me as a young lad, if I had what you lot got.
Yeah.
Because I'm single-minded, I'm very, very driven, right? And if I set my mind to most things... I pretty much achieved most things I've set out to achieve in martial arts. And I think, like, if I had the level of coaching these boys got and the science around diet, because I didn't know diet with me, I would eat tuna and pasta. That was my diet when I had a fight coming up on it. Make my tuna and pasta. No science in the, like, weight cutting. I would just starve myself and not drink for 24 hours. You know, there's no process behind it. And there was no opportunities. And I think, like, if I'd been learning, because I am like a sponge. If you show me something, I fixate on it, OCD, and I've got to get it perfect. And I think if I'd had like high-level black belt jiu-jitsu teaching or somebody of Carl's wrestling caliber teaching me wrestling at 17, 18, somebody like him teaching me striking, would I have got USC? Maybe, maybe not, but I'd have been a good level pro fighting on a regular basis, you know? So, yeah, I think I would have. I also look back, you know, with some of the ways we trained, you know, I'd get knocked out on a Tuesday and be back sparring on a Wednesday. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I'm blind in one eye because I didn't look after myself.
Do you get more fulfillment though from coaching one of the boys to a win, or from thinking back of winning yourself? Or was it a different type of feeling?
It's a different type of feeling. It's a sense. I think when I would do it, it was from like a selfish point of view. It was just me. It was like, and I've done it. I think, let them say what they want now. I've just become British champion. Let them say what they want now. I've just stopped somebody in front of 700 people in Evervale in an MMA fight. There's nobody doing it back then when I was doing it, wasn't it?
No.
People say, well, I was travelling and I would fight anywhere, and I was fighting for a £3 ticket deal. Do you know what I mean? You know, no money in it when I was in it. Was in it, and the buzz and the learn off it. But for me, it was like that massive buzz and a selfish point. No, it was like a sense of fulfillment. I like enjoy looking at the fighter, seeing how the team are around them, seeing how their family and the parents coming and thanking me. It's a lovely feeling, a sense of fulfillment as a group, whereas as a fighter, I have as much, like, I don't name names, but we got some fighters that are never going to be fighters. But their heart's in the right place, they train hard, they work their balls off in the gym, and I get as much fulfillment of them maybe just winning a grappling match as, say, Jack winning a fight in UFC. Something I think, I'm so proud of that kid. He's dug deep, he's stuck at it, he's worked. Somebody, for example, like Ben the Barrister. You know, Ben joined us, not a nasty lad, he's a barrister. The kid is there every day of the week, training. He's earned his blue belt, he's won medals, gold, silvers, bronze. And I look at him and there's a massive sense of pride. I think, and this is a lad that's not like naturally aggressive, not been brought up in a tough environment like some of the boys in the gym. But he's come in, worked hard, focused, listened, and I have as much enjoyment of him winning a gold medal as maybe some of the boys winning a Cage Warriors bout, you know? Yeah.
I bet you see some people turn their lives around for it as well,
100%.
don't you, all the time?
Listen, look at Marshman and Martin. There's no ifs or buts. They'd have been doing a prison sentence for quite a lengthy one if they hadn't been involved with it. And
100%.
they'll tell you that face to face. I think when I was older than them, I was fighting on a circuit, which is what they were aspiring to do. They respected me, so if I said something, it went. You know, if I said to them, you're not to be fighting on the weekends, they didn't fight. And whereas before it'd be gung-ho and they'd be scrapping left, right and centre, it'd be a little bit, hang on, shakes and go mental if we start fighting, yeah? And it'd be a conversation as a group and they pull themselves back out.
There's a couple of phone calls on a Saturday night.
God.
Oh, look, we have been fighting, but it wasn't our fault. They started on us.
They've been trying to adjust it.
These were the days. This is why I never take my mobile phone is plugged in downstairs but switched off, because like back, and it's habit, because back in the early days, like the phone would go, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Hello, Shake, listen now. We've been arrested. They've just let us out. We were fighting, but it wasn't our fault. And we're ringing. I'm thinking, you're ringing me at 2:30 to let me know, like.
You're feeling guilty, probably,
yeah,
aren't they?
they're flapping, look. Drunk
Yeah.
and all that shit. But yeah, we had a few of them phone calls, and my favourite phone calls like used to be like a couple of the bouncers like probably ringing. They go, "Shit, your boys when you're playing up. They haven't hit nobody on anything, but they're very rowdy. Could you give them a ring? Because it's making my boys feel uncomfortable." Like, right, Marshman, get that lot out from there. If I got to come down in my pajamas, you lot can look out. Oh, right, we're off. But yeah,
mad,
good times, but.
Go on the questions for him, Joe.
What was it like for you growing up, like seeing all this going on? Like,
Well, it was funny for me because before we moved into the gym and the arena, like I just started comp. I think I was in year 7 or 8, something like that. And you'd always hear the names about the town, or Jack Marshman. And I sort of knew Marshman from the Falcons, but not like to the degree where I know him now. Just he knew it. Obviously, I knew that he used to train with him. You know, you'd hear about Marshman. You'd hear about Todd Bradley. Oh, fucking Todd Bradley. This. You'd hear about Martin McDonough.
Yeah,
think,
Chris Edwards. You know,
Chris Edwards. And you'd be not afraid, but I didn't know who they were. So you'd be thinking in your head, fuck me, these must be hard boys. In school, everyone's talking about them. They fucking nutters. So I remember, like, I'd go train. I went training one night. The Marshman was home from the army, and this boy was training. And I was like, "Oh, what's your name, man?" He's like, "Oh, Todd." I was like, "Oh, Todd what?" He's like, "Todd Bradley." And I was like, "What was it? Todd Bradley?" And I was like, and then Martin came. I was like, "You Callum McDonald?" Because I was in school with Martin. "You Callum McDonald?" Right? Yeah. And I was thinking, "Fucking hell,
all these nutters.
how am I training all these nutters now?" And then it was a bit of a power trip for me because, like,
yeah,
they were all quite like protective of me as a kid and stuff. And I did use the occasional name. I still do to this day if I have a bit of fucking bit of asshole. I'm not afraid to drop Marshman's name, let me tell you. But no, it was brilliant. But as a kid, I always wanted to be them and not like be in trouble and stuff like them. But I wanted to do what they were starting to fight, and I think I wanted to fight like them. And they were all like, when I was 17, I used to start going out around town. I wouldn't be going out with the boys my age that often. I'd go out with the older boys because I know, like,
and I'd let him go then because I know he'd be
wouldn't have no trouble. And yeah, it was good times, like, as a kid, because then, like, all my friends are like, "How do you know Jack Marshman? How do you know Martin McDonough? How do you know Kyle Prosser?" And it'd be like, "Oh, I just train him," you know what I mean? I just do a bit of training with him, training partners.
Yeah, Kyle's a good lad as well.
Yeah, Kyle
looked after you, didn't he?
Kyle looked after me, still looks after me now to an extent. Like, I need
it was a funny process because I suppose I used to get slaughtered a little bit. You know, I train these boys out to fight, and my persona always was, if you give a man the ability to fight, doesn't feel the need to show off. And yesterday's a perfect example, right? I was telling him about it yesterday. Driving down through Abbey. And this is where people are delusional. You know what I was saying about people think, that you said that, I was like, how did you tap me? I can't get over it. How people haven't been killed yet on the street for picking on an MMA fight? I don't know. I'm driving on the road. I have a 50-year-old bloke, like, there's two of us in the car, and a car has stopped, and the car in front of me have gone round him, and I've just followed him. Well, this car have come hammering around the corner way too fast. I've had to slam my brakes on. So he beeps you on, like, and he's making all sorts of threats to the guy in front. And as I drove past, it's like a bloke in his 30s, and he's doing this to me. Knocking one, and I've pulled up, and I smile, and he goes, you wanker. I go, no, you wanker. And I burst out laughing. And, like, I had, you know, he was being really, really aggressive. I thought, oh, let's just go down to the gym. Do you know what I mean? Let me tell you something now. If it had been Marshman in the car, right, there'd have been a whole different situation.
I got it.
Right? Let me tell you. Because these people are choosing to create a situation where there's a fight with no knowledge about the fight. And it blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's like me saying, tell you what, I'm going to go in that house and plaster it. Or I'm going to go in that house and wire it. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing.
I got a funny story with Marshman a couple of years ago. He said he was driving and he's waiting on a junction to pull out. It's a busy road. So this fucking car is coming. He said, so obviously he's not indicating. He said, so I haven't pulled out. So the guy has just turned up indicating. So Marshman, he said, I'm in a bit of a fucking mood. I go, for fuck's sake. He said, so the fucking car's a big transit van. I've hit the fucking brakes. So, you know, you won't mind me saying, Marshall, he's not shy of a bit of fucking confrontation, is he? So he said, I've looked in the mirror and the guy have jumped out the car. He said, for whatever reason, you've gone around the front of his car. So obviously, because they're back, to come round to my passenger side. So Marshall fucking jumped out of the car.
God.
He said, you come round the corner, the guy all irate, and I've gone, oh, my indicator's broke, he said. And Marshall said, you little, and you know what? Wouldn't have had the same attitude if I was a young boy or a woman, would he? He said, no, I'm just telling you my indicator's broke.
You probably knew him, didn't you?
Said, do yourself a favour now, get in that car, he said, for you to get it. Jumped in the car and just drove
let me tell you, there's humans on this world that you don't want to be involved in a street fight with, right? As Big Ricky said the other week, lock them all in a room with Marshman and see who walks out.
Yeah, right? That's Big Rick saying it. He may have lost in the UFC. He may have lost
UFC, but put them in a room together
and see who comes out alive.
Right? But I'll finish off on this one. Me and his sister years back, so I was driving around by the arcade, and it's a one-way system. So you got the bus stop, there's about 20, 30 youngsters on the bus stop. There's a car parked there talking to the youngsters, and a car parked on the actual road. So I've pulled up, and I'm being quite patient, and I must be waiting a minute. And I do it, beep, beep, and they jump out the car. Poof, out they come aggressive. So I jump out the car, and I go, what? And they all go, oh, sorry, Sheikh, didn't realise it was you, right? And it
shouldn't matter though, should it?
Embarrassed them in front of, and like all the kids started cheering and shouting. I said, move that fucking car. Oh, all right, we didn't realise it was you. Got it. And I remember I was going, God, Dad, you must be hard.
Another good one on road rage. I have to tell it because you'd be gutted if I don't. Can you remember when I was about 14 and I was going to train with Chris Edwards, Desi, and looking back, he was probably only 18, 19 himself. So we're driving home.
Chris Edwards, mind if he was Marshman's age, would be in
jail. So we're driving home up through Aberbeeg now because we was training Aberbeeg, and this fucking car full of boys have flown at us, and I mean flown at us. And it was out. Chris is right away. So you know what he's like? He's like, you've hit the fucking brake. You looked in the mirror. And these boys have hit the brake because they've nearly bumped. 4 of them have jumped out the car. He looks at me, Des. I really thought I was shitting myself. He goes, put your fucking belt on and stay in the car. He jumps out. He's in a bit of MMA shorts. No top on. Fucking, what the fuck are you jumping out the car? And the boys obviously going, you want to slow down, Chris, in that car? I fucking slow down, knock the fucking freak out. They like, oh, whatever. Jumped in the car and drove off. But like you said, it could end, there's so many people that so like,
let me follow on that. He goes, he made me say, Carl, what should I do? I said, you stay in that fucking car. I'm going to take one to jump out, start popping with 4 boys. You 14, you stay in the car and we'll be dealing with me.
When I used to work in Motorpoint with Kyle Prosser, and Kyle's as fucking nuts and as willing for a fight as anyone who meet. Not the biggest guy in the world, but he'd fight his own shadow if he had to. And probably 3 days out of 5, we would drive to work, and someone would beep him or flash him or call him a wanker. Every single time, bang, he'd hit the fucking brakes, out he'd get. He'd go, what? Come on, get out the car for me, wanker. Every single time, not once, and this is over an 18-month period, probably talking 20, 30 times, did anyone ever get out of the car for a fight. It's easy to be a tough guy in the car, isn't it? But Honestly, it's like you said, the general public are so like willing to be confrontational without actually knowing what they're doing.
Look at that traveller boy years ago with me on Newport Road. I've like tried to. It's a long story, but like you've jumped out thinking because I'm in a shirt and tie, and I've gone out and I've banged it. We've shut down the 6 lanes, man. There's murder there. But again, like this guy have jumped out thinking, oh, I'm gonna go and bully somebody, and then someone like me have jumped out the car who we don't know, and I've cracked him. And his fucking world have crumbled. Do you know what I mean?
Everything he thought.
Shay, remember young Shay Evans?
Yeah, Shay Evans.
There's a boy to train with us, Shay Evans. They didn't train him all, but he was like, he had a couple of MMA fights. He was British champion in jiu-jitsu about 5-6 times. Tough, nasty little fucker. And he was 15 in the car of his old man. His old man's cut some guy up by accident. And these two boys are fucking like, they've come out around him, pulled back in front of the brakes and jumped out the car. And then his old man tells the story and he said, before I could even do anything, Shay's fucking out of the car. I've run over, shinned the one in the fucking ribs, folded him in half, belted him, fucking sat him down, and he said he's on his way round the front of the car for the other boy, and I was like, whoa, what's the problem? He said he's fucking swinging at the boy, the boy have jumped back in the car, and Anthony's pulling Shay up, but that's what you get.
Listen, there's a bit more of this in these, because society is, like, I look at it, I work in a school, and some of these kids are delusional, like, they saying to me, oh yeah, but I knock your son out on the street. I go, listen, you would die within 30 seconds. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no, it's different on the street. It's different. The only difference on the street is he's not going to have you're not going to have a referee for him to pull you off. That's the only difference on the street, right? Yeah. You know, you're going to get hurt. There's going to be no... And it is a delusion, and I do believe sometimes street justice is the only way you're going to educate them.
Well, remember that video the other week of in London? Remember that the boy came out and the guy what was his name?
Julian
Francis.
Julius Francis.
You could tell, you know, the boy who got knocked out. You could tell by his demeanour that he thinks a lot of himself. He fancies himself as a tough fuck, and of probably where he lives got a bit of a reputation, because there's no way you're acting like that if you haven't. He's there. Not only has he got chinned out cold, but he's got chinned out cold on a video that has then gone viral.
Oh, the embarrassment of it.
You'll never recover from it.
But it's probably the best life lesson he's ever going to have.
Yeah.
And add to that, these lads have built his reputation. They fight in other like-minded people that got no fight experience, got no skills. So they're having to dust up, pissed up in the pub. Bam, oh, you've knocked him out, you know. Honestly, I've had every hard man in 20 years come in our gym, and they walk out and go, how on earth have they even got a reputation? You know what I mean? It blows my mind. It's like, how this bloke have come in here and like, people want one of the baddest men in the area, you know, and they can't beat the 14-year-old kids up.
Yeah, I can remember when I used to train up the gym in Crick, just lifting weights and that, when I was like 16 to like 21, like 5 days a week. And then Richie the wrestler, do you know him?
I know Rich well, yeah.
Yeah, like he was in there. And like I got on with Rich really well. And he was like, just come here for a minute and just have like a little mess around with me. And I was like, fucking hell, I just couldn't believe, like he could just move me like I was nothing, and I was like 17 stone.
Now imagine him 30 years ago on the street, picking you up and dumping you on your head.
The grappling and wrestling have changed your dynamic, because you can end a fight by throwing somebody on their head on the concrete, right? But the sensation is bang on. That Joe Rogan clip that he does about drowning, and it's a perfect analogy of it. You can't breathe, particularly when you're inexperienced of a grappling, because you're chucking everything under my nose, lactic acid build, your lungs are blowing, and you go into sheer panic, and the only way to explain it feels like you're drowning.
Yeah. Did you see the Joe Rogan clip the other day? It was off one of his recent one. He was saying about like street fighting, and he was like, you know, if you were trained and you were going to have a street fight and all they're doing is just swinging wildly, they don't want to do it, and you were thinking, yeah, keep swinging. Yeah. Keep swinging, because what's going to happen in a minute's time, you're going to be tired, and what's going to happen when I get older and you're already tired, you're going to want to die. He's like, you're going to rather be dead. But it's, you know, and it's the same with like street fight. I know so many boys who had street fights and they've been hit, but they've never been hit by someone like Marshman, who knows how to punch, who can punch hard, not only can punch hard, but knows how to punch hard and knows where to crack you.
Go back 20 plus years ago to when I was talking about when I was training with the bouncers. Like Reece Long was a very, very good level, and I say he's passed away now, Reece, God rest his soul. But when it comes to street fighting, I can go back my entire life. There's not many on a, you know, he was on a level with anybody for an hard man that would fight anyone. Because of his judo, and he wasn't the biggest man in the world, like the big lads would come in and he'd throw him. And he would hit it perfect. You know, he'd grab the jacket and he would like shoulder throw him. So seeing Agam, and I remember him like many times hitting the tiles out the ceiling in that arena, in that little room, boof. And they'd hit the floor.
Hit the window.
And it would end it there and then, because there was no coming back off it. You hit that concrete on your back full on, thrown, right? So Reece would just smash people with throws. And then, like, the other side of the coin, I seen Daryl and Steve, who were, like, good kickboxing karate boys. they just low kick somebody, right? And it'd be, come on, bang, and it would be ended with like a shin to the thigh. And stop, oh, what have you done to me? You've broke my leg, No, it's just a simple shin kick to the thigh, do you know what I mean? And this is what I'm saying about, they've never experienced a proper fight. Never experienced a proper
Can you imagine having a street fight with him?
Him is a perfect example of somebody who would get picked on, right? You know, you imagine some racist up in Brimo Asda's, right? He's pulling in and maybe he's jumping out, making like a terrible like Chinese remark at him or whatever, and him coming out would end your life. He'd end your life.
And he wouldn't have to touch your face.
Oh.
I honestly think, right, someone like
could
him,
low kick you
if he kicked you in the stomach, he kicks that hard, I think you would pass out in just sheer pain.
No, my stomach, he kicked me in the leg. With no shins on.
With him, and funny stories at the Christmas do a couple of years ago, and we took him down to town, and he told me, he said he was in the toilet having a pee. Some fucking idiots in there, like, fucking little Chinese fella here. Like, and his little Chinese fella out there. He said, some guy pokes his head around the fucking and goes, I know you. And he goes, do you train Jack Shaw? He said, yeah. He's like, fucking apologise to him. He said, what fuck us all up.
You just never know who you're dealing with, do you?
We finish on this when he on about it. Like, we're at the Christmas, when Chris Edwards, like, he's ADHD, honest God, right? He's caused me more problems than any other, because he is just, without meaning to be, and he's not showing off, he's just out of control, right? I've been in some situations, I think we're going to have to bang our way out of this one at an MMA, because you've said something or done something, you think, oh my God. So he's playing up at the Christmas do. He looks at me and goes, oh, Edward not last in Thailand nightclub, he said. I go, what happens in all bouncers, all Thai fighters, no uniform, they blend in. Edwards walk in, he not walk out, they lock door. I go.
They said in Thailand they don't lock you out, they lock you in.
The door. He said they lock door, they beat you up, and then they throw you out. I go, yeah. I not take Edwards to Thailand. When the boys come to Thailand, we not take Edwards.
Team to Thailand, Edward not allowed.
Edward, need to call him. Edward not coming.
Come on, let's have the questions.
Let's have the questions. Wrap it up. I got work to do. I got Cage Warriors tomorrow.
Rightio. So, do you think it's too late to start MMA at 17, 18?
No. Probably a perfect age. If they've got no training, give me a young 16, 17-year-old with no background in anything. They're easier to mould. You know, if they come from like a taekwondo, kickboxing background, it's difficult to get bad habits out of them. Jiu-jitsu, I'd say, yeah, no problem with a bit of jiu-jitsu background, because I've just mold training.
And they're also at the age where they're not too young.
Yeah.
They're 60, you kind of like a bit more developed, and you pick it up a bit quicker, and you're starting to obviously...
I think 16 is good. Don't wrong, I love it. You've got a good kids group here. Our kids are from 8 to 15. I'll just touch on it. I'm dead against kids competing, right? As I said, I had a bad experience when I was 8 years of age. I see so many kids freeze and, you know, walk away. There's so many teams, singing and dancing about how successful their kids' team is. A lot of them kids then disappear because they've been pushed so hard. When they're at 16, 17, they start having a drink, getting involved with girls, or if it's girls, they get involved with, and it thins out. The jiu-jitsu training from 8 to 15, and if this is good enough for Hicks and Gracie, it's good enough for anybody in the world, is about fun, learning fundamentals, learning the art, but in an enjoyable way, playing games without any pressure of competition. So that's my take on it. But 16, 17, yeah, it's a perfect age.
Yeah. I think that's good, yeah. You kind of got at that age, unless you want to do it, you just...
I don't make any of my kids. If they want to do it, we've got a handful of kids that really want to compete. Great, we support them 100%. But for you to get your belts as a kid, your junior belts, there's no like process around the grading that you've got to be doing competition. Adults, yeah. Kids, no.
Yeah. Radio. Right, let's have a look at this one. Do you think we should see more Welsh media getting behind the boys at the gym?
100%. Another bugbear of mine, you know. I've called out ITV, and I like a bit of confrontation on Twitter, don't I? So I've called out ITV and BBC a couple of times about lack of support with Jack, and they come back, we've been through the UFC. Well, just come direct to us.
Yeah, listen, as well, if any of you are watching, stop contacting Fight Week. Wanting to come Fight Week and fucking have 40 interviews Fight Week. Give us a bit of fucking exposure in the build-up, a bit of fight camp stuff. No one wants to hear me Fight Week in a mood, not eating, water loading, talking about, yes, it's going to be a good fight, and I've trained really hard, camp's gone really well. Yeah. Come, put a bit of effort into it, put a bit of thought into it, come do a bit in the build-up, rather than doing it Wednesday before the weight cut.
In 2017, we had a bit of a purple patch. When Brett and Marshman got into the UFC, ITV Wales were picking up on it when we had them visit the gym. BBC Wales, couple of things you see us on the news regular. And I'd say from 2018, it's been like a wall of silence, We've had Jack in the UFC. Welsh guys, we've had Jack Mason, Cody McKenna, and I've not seen one news article on it. You know,
No, they do a little interview fight week.
right throughout COVID, when there's a lack of sport going on, they should have been right behind. Oh, Jack Shaw is travelling out representing his country under COVID restrictions, out in Las Vegas, out in Abu Dhabi. Nothing.
Nah, it's crazy, isn't it?
And it's mental, mate, because if they did, if the mainstream media did get behind us, I think you see the sport would go through the roof. These boys would benefit off it. Local gyms would benefit off an influx of new students. But for whatever the reasons may be, mate, it's the shooting time mob, I always call it. Probably the powers that be in charge, 50, 60, similar to when we had the situation with putting shows on in Blaine and Gwent. They're old-fashioned, set in their ways, old-fashioned, mindset on it.
Yeah, you've got boxers who are, 10 and 11, on the verge of fighting for a British title, pulling in sponsorships of 10, 15 grand a year. Whereas
like you get
me and Brett at the top level are lucky to get a 500-600 quid a fight, or even fucking hell. I've got thankfully a couple of good sponsors that sponsor me monthly, but people don't want to know 10 grand a year, 15 grand a year for a yearly sponsorship. People that you've got no chance with an MMA fighter.
And also, I think it's more important for the sponsors, as like Jack was in Cage Warriors, rather because at the UFC he gets paid really well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At Cage Warriors, when you try, you're not on that life changing money. You're not earning enough to pay the bills. That's when you want the people to jump in and be a little bit, with a bit of foresight and think, "God, this kid's going somewhere. Let's get behind him now."
Yeah.
Which we did have with a few guys, which we've been blessed with, but it's not the case in general. And there's plenty of wealthy people in Wales. It just help out the local community a little bit.
Yeah, I think even people my age, I'm 28, and I would say 10% of the people my age are actually into watching it.
Yeah.
So it's still really young, isn't it? I think everyone will like it.
I use this as an analogy. I work in a school. There's 220 staff. Probably 5 would understand what MMA is. Like they say, oh, my niece is a black belt in kickboxing. Do you know her?
She's a UFC fighter.
No. So it is very, very. It's still a minority sport. As much as we think that it's mainstream, and
it's
people
not,
because we're in amongst it. But it's not.
It's not at all.
We're fortunate. App Ladies probably got a very, very big fan base because of Marshman, because of Jack. You know. But outside of those areas, it's still a very minimalistic sport.
No, definitely. Right. Someone says, can we see a clip of the main man Shaky having fun in the gym with the boys and girls? They want to see a bit more of you on the vlogs, I think.
Yes, we'll sort it out.
They sort that out.
Bit more.
Catch me dancing.
Have you got any embarrassing stories about Jack that you can tell?
I've got a feel, but I don't want to put it on the spot.
No, don't be a knob.
Just give us one.
Fight stories are going to be. Fight-related stories.
I'd have to think. To be honest, there aren't many really embarrassing, is it? I can think off the top of my head.
So on the spot a bit,
the biggest embarrassing one, right, is for me more than anything. Where it's like, you Jack's dad, I've lost my identity. From when he was a youngster, it
was you Shaky's boy.
When he go to the door, the bouncers would go,
you ain't 18.
You ain't 18.
Yeah, you know my old man.
And the boys would go, it's Shaky's boy. Oh, come on in, it's Shaky's boy. He's all right, he's coming in. Now he's the other way around. He's like, you're too old coming here, mate. I'm Jack's dad. I even went to Bellator, right, with Brett in Dublin, and it's an ongoing joke now. They all call me Jack's dad. They take them in, and we're doing the COVID test. So he goes up, Brett Johns, okay, Carl Parker, yeah, and he go, you name it. I go, Richard Shaw, and all the boys. And he goes, you Jack's dad? I could have knocked him out.
How the tide's turned, isn't it? Right, so out of all the knockouts in UFC history, have you got a favourite?
Marshman against Seidenblad, just because of the personal connection.
Yeah, I bet that was a hell of a buzz that night.
Probably the highest point for me, because it was the first fight in the UFC, along with his debut. That's the two pinnacles of my coaching career. Was Marshman winning his UFC debut and Jack winning, getting in as well. There's obviously an emotional attachment with him being my son, but to watch Marshman come from where he was as a youngster, who was a tearaway, let's be honest, and on the wrong side of the path, to join in the army, becoming a disciplined paratrooper, to training his ass off, fighting, and get to that UFC where everybody was saying, no one from Wales will ever, unless they travel, and we'd done it. And I took him from a 16-year-old kid with no martial arts experience and got him to the UFC. It was a massive thing for me. And a massive thing for Wales, I felt, as well.
Yeah, it kind of puts a stamp on it, doesn't it, to show what you're doing is working.
Yeah, 100%.
Where do you see Welsh MMA in 5 to 10 years?
If I'm being honest, not much further down the road than what we are, unless we get the right people behind us. The only thing that's going to change that is if we get Jack you know, knocking on the door for a title, Brett knocking on the door for a Bellator title. We might see the tide turn a little bit then. What my dream I've always been, I've said this, and Jack about me, since 2015, me and him went to Ireland, and we watched the UFC in 2015. It was an 8-fight card. It was not the greatest card in the world. Paddy Holohan was main event. Darren Till fought Dalby on there, didn't he? Who other standout names?
Ethan Daly was on there. Oh, fucking hell.
There's a lot of Norman Park, wasn't there? Neil Seery.
Neil Seery, yeah.
And there was a lot of Irish and a couple of British guys on it. And we both said we've never, ever experienced an atmosphere. It was unreal.
Well, I went to Bellator last week about it, and it was exactly the same for fucking boys who were 1-0, 2-0. You never get that in
Then I went up
Wales.
with Brett to Dublin for the first fight, and just listening. Like Scotty Pedersen fought Nathan Kelly.
Yeah.
It was like on the prelims. It's packed in there, like 8,000. The noise when Nathan Kelly came out, we were fighting him, and the ears went up on the back of my neck. You know, it was like, this is. We come close to it in the ice arena, the atmosphere in there when Jack was in Cage Warriors, but I just feel the UFC missed a trick and not like run with it, but promote him a bit more. He was selling out 4,500 tickets in the ice arena at Cage Warriors with minimal promotion. And I just think if the UFC thought about it and got behind them, you know, they could do so much with the fighters in Wales. So unless we see like this happening or them challenging for titles, I just don't see how we growing it without the help of the mainstream media, you know? You need, like, Ireland had it because of the Conor McGregor moments, you know? Conor McGregor turned that nation up on his head and got everybody into MMA. Everybody aspired to be a Conor McGregor rather than a Roy Keane.
Well, you know, one of the boys I went with to watch Brett was at the bar, and he said there was these girls getting sitting next to him, and he said, "Oh, we were supporting girls," and they're like, "Oh, no one, we just enjoy the show." That's 2 girls, he said. Yeah. We just come to watch the show. We're not here for anyone specific. We just enjoy the night. Like
the only improvement will be the level. The level is getting better every year. Like, we got amateurs now. So, for example, and let's look at our amateurs. They would have wiped the floor with me as a professional. If you brought that version of me from 2000 and... When was my last fight? I can't remember. 2010. You brought me into that gym now. I get my ass whooped by every single amateur in the room because the level is getting better and better and better. So the professionalism is the biggest improvement rather than the
skills.
support. Skill set will keep improving. As a nation, we got a lot of work to get these people behind it. And I would love to have a Welsh event, even if it was under the Motorpoint with 5,500 people, whether it be Bellator or UFC, with a stacked one side of Welsh fighters and that reaction that you see in that 3 arena.
You know, you get behind your own, innit? You know,
and we were getting in the ice arena.
Yeah,
like everyone would come up with Wales.
You know, if your friends are fighting or I haven't got a fight, but they're doing a bit of promotion or sharing posts, trying to promote their fights, buy a ticket or share a post. Yeah. It takes you 2 seconds to share. If one of my friends are fighting, even now, I'll share it because they might get 1 or 2 ticket sales or they might get a sponsorship. You know, it goes a long way. If you have 30 people share your post, probably those 30 people have probably got on Facebook another 30, 40, 50 people each who would see the post and wouldn't see it originally. You know, support your friends.
The amateur fighters as well, they take for granted. The fact they got like a Cage Warriors Academy show now, which is like really well run, very professional, they take it for granted. If you want to succeed in it, it's not just about being a good fighter. You've got to promote yourself on social media. You've got to be able to sell tickets. I got guys turning up on Saturday tomorrow to fight that have done 1 or 2 tickets. And I'm like, surely a minimum expect... Like, if they were in boxing, they'd never get a fight. Because in boxing, if you don't sell the tickets, you don't get on the card. You know, every fight... And then we got the other end of the spectrum, like young Yohan, Levi, they doing anything between 50 to 100 tickets each. You're telling me as an individual, you haven't got 10 friends and family that's going to come and support you. It's mind-blowing for me.
No, it's a lot of them don't push it.
Don't push it because it's easy come, easy go. We turn up, got the place.
Because even as an amateur, I would do 50, 100 tickets as an amateur, but didn't matter where I fought. I had a core group of 20, 25 friends who I could tell I was fighting in fucking Spain. And we'll come. I fought in Belgium. Done 50 tickets in Belgium.
Go back to 2006, 2007. I was selling 100 tickets.
Exactly.
Just fighting in a boxing ring in Everville.
Yeah, you've got to put yourself out there because it is
no social media then,
and it is a big part.
Just word of mouth. People say, "Oh, Shaky's fighting." I was DJing in a rugby club. I'd have my tickets behind you, boy. Come on, and when they were drunk, selling them.
And it is a big part of the game. That's why a lot of amateurs and even pros take for granted. It's like, oh, you know, I'll just fight, and it's like, but no, you got to be able to sell as well because if you don't sell, you don't get on the big show. If you don't get on the big show, you can be as good as you want. If no one knows who you are, then it don't make a difference.
Right.
Yeah, it's a big part, isn't it?
Let's use UFC. Mighty Mouse, arguably one of the greatest, top 5 go. Happy to let him go because he was not a big draw because he's not like the social media. With Conor could lose 10 fights in a row. They'll still keep bringing him in and he'll still be main eventing because the hype and the way he sells the fight. So it's you know, not everybody's gonna be a Conor McGregor, but you can do it in a respectful, nice way. You know, like he used to sell out the arena, never badmouth anybody, never talk shit online. So it's just about selling yourself in the right way.
Yeah. I think since you've gone to the UFC, if anything, it's kind of been like less hype around that because you've been fighting away on quiet shows and closed doors and all that.
COVID have smashed the industry as well. Let's be real. On a domestic level, to take 2 years out of all the amateur careers, out of all the up and coming pros careers, you know, it's a big gap, and we're going to be another 12 months, I think, even recovering from that.
Yeah.
Any more, Joe?
I think that's it, mate.
That's it.
Wrap it up.
We wrap it up.
The right time we spoke politics, street fights.
Is it Nick Smith? He's going to...
Nick Smith, there's a couple of clips here for Nick Smith to be tagged in. He's
going to be suing us, probably.
He won't sue us because it's all true.
Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Remember we just said, it takes you 1 minute to share. Well, not even 1 minute, 1 second to share. You can get on the Patreon as well. Joe posted a link to that. You all know where to get the old fella on social media.
And if any of you want to try the gym, we're based in Aberbeek next to Screwfix. We got all walks of life there, from 16 years of age up to 55, 60. Come and try a session. The hardest part's walking through the door. Once you walked in, takes a lot for you.
You don't need to be fit either to come training.
This is my pet hate. I'll be down when I get fit. Come down, we'll get you fit.
Yeah, we'll get you fit on the job.
Fit on the mat.
Yeah, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, boys.
Get those from the trap for. Some man they wanna chat shit till I knock 'em, ain't like I'm Jack Shaw. Rolls high, roll stack, my flow shot like a hacksaw.